This is the first episode of Weaponized Radio. Timestamps in the description if you want to skip the music, and we'll be starting shortly.
Auf der Heide blüht ein kleines Blümelein, und das heißt Erika. Eins von 100.000 kleinen Bienelein wird umschwärmt Erika, denn ihr Herz ist voller Süßigkeit. Zarter Duft entströmt dem Blütenkleid. Auf der Heide blüht ein kleines Blümelein, und das heißt Erika. In der Heimat wohnt ein kleines Mägdelein, und das heißt Erika. Dieses Mädel ist mein treues Schätzelein und mein Glück, Erika. Wenn das Heidekraut rot-lila blüht, singe ich zum Gruß dir dieses Lied. Auf der Heide blüht ein kleines Blümelein, und das heißt Erika. In mein Kämmerlein blüht auch ein Blümelein, und das heißt Erika. Schon beim Morgengrauen sowie beim Dämmerschein schaust mich an, Erika. Und dann ist es mir, als wenn es laut. Denkst du auch an deine kleine Braut? In der Heimat bleibt um dich ein Mägdelein, und das heißt Erika.
I'm your host, Weaponized Goebbels, coming to you live from Nova Germania, formerly known as Tampa, Florida, part of the beautiful SS Ordensstadt Floridian, overseen by the watchful eyes of Reichsführer SS Ron DeSantos. We're here to talk about a few different things today. We'll get more into actually what the podcast is about, but first, let me go ahead and introduce my co-host for this evening. Mind saying hi?
Hey, folks. My name is your friendly neighborhood fascist, and I've been suspended 6 times on the same account, and each time I keep coming back. It's good to be here.
Yeah, this motherfucker does not give up. Like, I can be blamed for at least 2 of his suspensions because I make some of the art for his background and thing. And, you know, I get a little risque with the symbolism that's out there. We're gonna try to tone it down next time.
Yeah, it was especially a bit risque when the first time you made me a Rockwell-themed, thing for my profile.
Oh, it went hard,
You slapped
too.
like 3 swastikas in that damn thing.
It went hard, too. It's a real damn
It did.
shame.
It was wonderful. It was a great theme. I still love it. I still have it saved in my, in one of my political folders, but yeah, it was a bit over the top.
Yeah, it seems that, and I'm not even sure if people are manually striking these things. I've noticed on Twitter as of late, any symbolism involving a swastika or the black sun. I've noticed the black sun actually gets picked up on more than anything else, which is weird.
That's odd. I mean, I got struck down just recently for something to do with my profile picture, even though there was no sort of fasces or swastika or any maybe sort of National Socialist symbolism in there at all. Nothing. Just a bit of French fascism. And I figured it'd be just obscure enough for Twitter to not know about it, and I was right for a while. They never bothered me about it. I never got reported as far as I could tell. But then just recently they were like, nope, you've done a bad thing, and we're going to punish you for it, but we're not going to tell you exactly what for.
Yeah, the fascies I've noticed as is pretty good when it comes for people picking up on it. Like, I've had posts where I've had to explain to people what the fasces is. It's historical symbolism from ancient Rome and its importance in the fascist movement. I mean, fuck, that's what it's named after. So a lot of people don't know about it. They also don't know that it's also heavily ingrained in American symbolism because we're entirely based off the Roman Republic. So, but plenty of public buildings
as well.
Yeah, plenty of public buildings have the accent on it. I think it's the crest of France also has it, as well as what was it, Colombia? I think it's Colombia has it on their crest as well.
Did you hear that racial consciousness got taken down recently?
Oh yeah, basically everyone's been posting that recently.
Tons of posts about it recently. It's a damn shame. I mean, and someone came about trying to impersonate the guy. I was thinking, if I can come back, then I imagine he can, but the issue with that is that he had a much higher reach than I did. And I'm shocked that he lasted as long as he did with how he was just trying to spread the truth around like he did. But I guess that him wishing Uncle Addie a happy birthday was what finally got him.
But everyone
That's part what they're trying to get me for, too.
I did too! Whatever, I'm untouchable.
Thousands
basically.
of people on Twitter did, but they're only going to ban the ones that they think are the biggest threat.
So, on to tonight's first topic. So, kind of goes back to the little bit we did at the beginning. Florida is coming under a lot of criticism for a few of their laws that they've been proposed, as well as things have been passed, including lowering the qualifications for a death sentence, as well as certain legislation passed last year, I believe, where sexually explicit content was not allowed in schools for children to observe. And these things have sparked a lot of criticism. Now, we can't get into some of the assets of this because this is YouTube and there are certain things you cannot say here about a certain group of people who are very protected. So we're not going to touch that part. We're just going to talk about these two parts about Florida right now. Personally, I say good for them. Like, I don't see why anyone would have an issue with increasing the death penalty to include pedophilia.
That should just earn you an instant death penalty in the first place. So
yeah,
every state needs to adopt something like that.
That really begs the question: why was that not already in place?
And why are people getting upset about it? I mean, I understand that some people see like pedophilia is more of a mental disorder than something that people can control, but at the same time, same reason people would put a dog to sleep if it attacked a child. You don't want it to happen again, and if it happens once, the odds are it will happen again.
Oh yeah, like first off, if I think it is a mental. I think it's like halfway a mental illness, halfway something can be conditioned to believe in. Like porn addiction. I'm gonna go ahead and say 80% of these cases are porn addicted individuals who just went down the lolicon rabbit hole. Their degeneracy is that's the rabbit hole they went down, and a pornography addiction definitely helps them along that way.
Some of them don't even go down the rabbit hole, they just go right off the deep end because they get exposed to it at a younger age.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've heard many stories about people like that.
Those are the sad ones, actually, when people are just children and they have to get abused or they get exposed to such things when they're very young. It becomes so embedded in their brain that they can't really think or do much anything else other than that.
Oh yeah, like I don't know the statistic off the top of my head, so I am bullshitting right now, but there is a large amount of pedophiles who are actually have been molested when they were younger. That's bad, that's awful, and you kind of almost feel bad for them, but then they acted on that impulse. Like, if you're a decent human being and you've figured out that you had this fucked up thing in your mind, you'd think that the thing you'd want to do is separate yourself from those sort of things. Don't indulge in that kind of pornography. Don't
seek help even.
Yeah, seek help. Don't seek these thoughts. But when someone seeks out this pornographic material, which despite what some absolute moral retards may say online, is not a victimless crime. I don't care if they didn't produce the CP. Simply consuming it funds the production of it.
The fact that there is a demand for it is already enough of a crime.
Yeah, exactly. Now that's the issue. People doing this, it's like how a lot of druggies will say it's a victimless crime. No, it fucking isn't. You buying these illicit substances, be it meth or in states where marijuana is still illegal, you are funding a criminal underground. And that all trickles back to cartels or local crime syndicates. It's never some sort of innocent indulgence. You're involved in blood money. And
See, as long as there's a demand, those people are gonna keep making it, and if they keep making it, people are gonna keep being hurt. So.
Yeah, and I'm not to say that all inherently you're all just evil for blood money, because I like chocolate. A good chunk of that chocolate is produced by slaves owned by Nestle in South America, or from children. Or I like my phone. I know that all those materials are harvested by children forced to work in lithium mines in Africa. Or shit in China. So, if we go down that whole rabbit hole, yeah, you could easily use, by twisting words around, say that we're all guilty of this. But those are to produce a product. There is no benign way to create CP.
There's people being hurt and even killed from start to finish.
And yeah, I just say it's the porn addiction pipeline that has definitely escalated the situation when it comes to that. Not to say, pedophiles didn't exist before. They have. And you're a fool if you think otherwise.
The numbers are probably a lot less than they are these days, because back then it was probably more keyed towards just pure mental illness. These days there's a lot of different factors that kind of go into it.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And, anyway, that was a bit of a rant. What I'm getting back to is, yes, I believe a lot of these people do not have a choice in what they are attracted to. But if you show you don't have the resistance to not partake in consumption of CP, you should be put down before you hurt somebody else. I don't think there's any saving you after you get to that point.
You either get help early on, or you offer yourself up to just be taken out of the equation, so to speak. Because at that point, there's no coming back.
Yeah, exactly.
You're a danger to not only others around you, but also to yourself and to the image of your home.
Yeah, let's just say somebody they couldn't they realize that, but they're already a bit down the rabbit hole. Just separate yourself from children. Get a phone without internet. Go work on an oil rig or something. You can.
Go somewhere you're never gonna see a child again.
Yeah, there you go.
Out in the middle of the desert or something.
But these people don't do that, and that shows enough intent that I'm not sad if they get killed because of it. But yeah, a lot of people who we're not going to specify the people complaining about this, but a lot of people are upset about that, who you wouldn't assume based off their names and titles as afraid of being murdered for being pedophiles.
If you're afraid of being murdered for being a pedophile, then you need to take a good long look at yourself.
Oh yeah, but it reminds me of that one meme, and I'll put it up on screen. This isn't actually live. I lied to you all. We're not live broadcasting. But it was this meme back in the Rittenhouse trials, and it's like a Simpsons bit where they just put up on top leftists getting worried about Kyle Rittenhouse murdering a guy who raped a 5-year-old, and then it's just this fat guy going, "That could have been me."
I think I viewed that. I think I've seen that before, actually. There's a flood of memes coming out around that time, though.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of good memes about the Rittenhouse trial. But yeah, it's the same thing. I don't care who the fuck you are or your political leaning. Kyle Rittenhouse didn't murder a single person who deserves to live.
Everybody that he killed deserved it.
Yeah, exactly. Ignoring the fact that they assaulted him, stupidly. Who fucking, one guy had a pistol, another one had a skateboard. Who fucking assaults a guy with an assault rifle? Bro, that's just natural fucking selection at that point. People, get upset about abject monsters being murdered. I genuinely do not understand unless there's something underlying that they're not acknowledging. Of course, it could just be taking a side for the sake of, that's what my side took, so I'm taking it. I'm sure there's absolutely not that much thought put into it. So maybe I'm looking too deep into it. We've reached a very tribalistic level of political discourse. The inevitable turn that democracies must eventually take before they turn into something else.
Hopefully whatever we see on the other side of this is going to be a lot better than what we've been dealing with.
Hopefully. I think that we're going to go do a similar trajectory to Rome. America is just like the Western Hemisphere Rome, so much that we named our fucking governing bodies the Senate. Let me see. What was that other bill that I saw that was very funny?
Oh, well, you mentioned something earlier about something about China.
Oh yeah. Well, we'll get back onto that when we just talk about the whole TikTok ban in general. But we're basically late. Like, you know, that was not even worth talking about. That's pretty well covered as of late. Anyway, back to the whole meme of the episode. I was gonna have this up on screen. Outrage as Florida Republicans pass fascist bill to remove trans kids from parents' custody. They're throwing around the F word a lot here, and you see this
They sure
constantly.
do love
Yeah, right. I'm not gonna get more into this article because I will simply be in trouble just for making any joke that I could make or making any observation that I could make. So I'm gonna move on. We got a few other funny articles. I've seen fascists thrown around so many times. And I get that that's the meme. The left likes to throw fascist around at basically anyone who's not them. J.K. Rowling, a left-wing feminist, is a fascist. Everyone's a fascist, apparently.
This thing, they refer to anybody as a fascist if they don't agree with their extreme left ideals, and sometimes they even extreme left.
Yeah, they're calling other
I've seen
leftists.
folks on the right do it too.
Yeah, well, I think that's more like a boomer Republican thing.
Yeah.
They'll call left-wing things fascist. It's hilarious. No, the term as an insult has been boiled down to meaninglessness.
I've seen many times like conservatives or quote-unquote conservatives or Republicans will try to refer to folks on the left, specifically those that are so very protected, as fascists or what they do, spreading their ideals as being fascist. It's just absurd. It's a buzzword now. It has been for so many years, just to scare people, or to try to scare people, I should say. It doesn't always work.
That's the reason why it doesn't work anymore. First off, it's free publicity. When these morons are calling basically everyone a fascist, again, this is the path that many people go through. You're getting called a fascist for having remotely right-wing beliefs. You're getting called a fascist because you're straight. You're getting called a fascist because you're cisgender. I'm being big quotes around the word. I'll get more into the topic later, but the term itself is just a fallacy. And you're being called that for basically everything. So suddenly when you're getting called a fascist and a Nazi for very middle of the road, like very moderate views, you start to think, well, if that makes me a fascist, what did they have to say? Then bam, we got free advertisement right there. Thank you, the left. That's the best part about this. I'm not the first person to say this, to properly diagnose what they're doing and how it pushes people away from them. Many people have said the exact same thing I'm saying right now. And it's not suddenly they're gonna wake up and I'm gonna lose this advantage. Like, who? I cannot remember who who said that. I'll put the quote up on screen. God damn it. I'll put the quote up on the video. But don't interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake. And I believe that's good form. Allow people to make mistakes. However, I could scream this from the top of the mountain. I could get on Tucker Carlson. I could have my own news network and say this exact thing, point by point, and they wouldn't do anything to change their behavior, even though it is doing nothing but spread fascism even more. Because they're just fucking dumb. Like, I don't think they're dumb per se. Plenty of people on the left are very intelligent individuals. They have the most educated class as their main recruitment ground. But as a group, they're incredibly dumb and dogmatic. Dogmatic to a degree where, I already said this before, but I think that it's basically a new religion in a way. Not like a good way, where like they made their horrible ideals into something that could have further belief and further spiritual growth. I mean, science as it stands, and I'm referring to academia when I'm talking about their main recruiting ground, is no longer the scientific method. Everything is dogmatic, and there are certain things in this dogma that you cannot question, even though the point of science, the scientific method, is to constantly critique things that you may have, that may have been believed to be true but could be false, because plenty of ideas have been perpetuated in the past that could easily be disproven by simple experimentation. We have moved past that. You're not allowed to critique certain things. Things are called settled science, the most anti-scientific term possible. It's still the theory of gravity. It's still the theory of evolution. These two things are objectively true. However, maybe we misunderstand. Maybe we could easily get a better understanding of it. That's why it still needs to be able to be critiqued. Obviously, the Earth's not fucking flat. But if people are simply shouted out of the room for critiquing the idea of the world being round, you just simply will get yourself mired in dogma. And I'm not even getting into the worst cases around this, especially surrounding a certain John Money.
I think part of the reason why certain things are referred to as theories, like obviously theory of evolution, is because that every facet of them is not concrete. Because people always get things wrong over the years. There can always be new discoveries made, new additions made, or even things that are just, oh hey, we made a slight mistake here.
Exactly, that's what it's supposed to be. But
everything can always be open to debate.
Exactly, and everything should be open to debate. For example, vaccines. There are people who are calling it settled science. And I'm not a total anti-vaxxer. I believe that certain diseases have been completely wiped out because of herd immunity. That's true. But when a certain vaccination comes out that was only developed for less than a year, and that didn't slow down the spread of a certain virus that ravaged the world, and that we're now seeing extreme health complications that we knew about before taking this vaccination was mandatory, I'm sorry, Chief, that's just objectively not scientific to just shout these things out and not take any of these questions. What have the progressive progressed? What have the conservatives conserved?
If the conservatives actually did what they were supposed to do by their names and conserve things, we wouldn't have a lot of the issues we do today. Things would be a bit more culturally centered. The economy would probably be doing a bit better too. And certain folks wouldn't be so freely able to influence politics and citizens of the nation.
Yeah, it's...
But the conservatives don't want to conserve anything, or their own pockets.
No, they don't. Like, mass immigration. Some conservatives may pretend they have a stance on this. They don't. They benefit just as much from mass immigration as as Democrats do. A lot of them are large landowners. They get cheap labor to work on their farms, to make money off of, and that's the end goal of all this. Democrats get a new voter base, and although you are seeing a lot of more especially people coming from Mexico voting Republican after they assimilate into American culture, because it really doesn't make much sense for people from South America to vote Democrats. Not to say that all South American countries are inherently right-wing or traditionalist. We off the coast of the greatest state in the Union is Cuba, which is still a communist dictatorship, and you also have Venezuela and other left-wing regimes that existed at certain points in these countries' history. But culturally, they're a lot more conservative than we are, most of them.
Because they know that their culture is part of what keeps them together, and they want to preserve that for that exact reason, because without their culture, they're going to destabilize quite quickly, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, just look at places that almost had their cultures completely annihilated. China and Russia are the best two examples right now. They're both cesspits. Yeah, China's doing well financially, but they're about to have a giant demographic crunch, just like Japan is in the midst of. And a lot like Japan and Korea, especially with their majority male population, you're going to see a massive upturn of socially stunted people who can't function.
And probably a declining birth rate as well, honestly.
Oh yeah.
Japan's already got that problem out the ass.
Yep, they do. That's what happens when people work all fucking day and don't have enough time to form relationships, as well as everyone's placated with anime and video games to the point where just going out and having actual friends is just simply an inconvenience.
That's the thing with a lot of the anime video games and whatnot, is that a bunch of it's been designed to cater towards people who have very little amount of time, because they're always working and they're always going to school. They get maybe an hour or two of free time a day. They're made to be able to plug that free time and keep them interested in instead of making them worry about, oh, hey, how am I possibly going to keep a social life? How am I going to go get a girlfriend? Oh, don't worry about that. We have this cheap VR headset here. Just throw that on for a couple hours a day, bozo.
Yeah, throw that on. Here, play a dating sim, or
Exactly. Fill that hole in your heart. Go on.
It's very dystopic. How escapism has, for a lot of people, like not a small number whatsoever. Like not as bad. It's not as bad here in America, but like in East Asia, yeah, the dystopic level that these this escapist realities, primarily video games, but you know, TV shows. I'm sure Netflix and Amazon Prime have also catered to this, but people who can just simply live an escapist life. They work enough to eat, and then they just go into another world. It's very dystopic.
Except for all those things are they're just made for escapism, or just to fill that void that a lot of people have for either their social lives or love lives, for that matter.
But stepping back to cover the points. Taking a few steps back, East Asia, dystopic shithole. Everything that communism has ever touched becomes divorced from culture. So China and Russia have dog shit cultures, and life is mostly meaningless for most people there. I don't know how many enemies I'm gonna get with that, because like almost everyone on the distant right, on Twitter anyway, is either a Russia boo or a what do you call a China boo?
I really don't know. It's a great question.
Anyway, a lot of pro-China people on the right, for whatever fucking reason. Moving back farther to that, both Democrats and Republicans benefit from immigration. Moving back from that, fascism's thrown around meaninglessly. Florida is implementing nothing but reasonable laws that are being taken out of context by either delusional people simply taking their tribal side of the argument, or people trying to hide their malice by calling things racist or transphobic or homophobic.
Oh, it's part of virtue signaling as well, honestly.
Oh yeah, virtue signal definitely comes into that. I think the second option might be a big part of that as well. Like a lot of these, like you know the whole stereotype about male feminist, right?
Yeah.
Every single one of them is a sexual predator.
Absolutely, they're either a sexual predator or they wish they were.
Yeah, like they're either that fucking whipped and self-deprecating, or it's simply a means to get in close to people to harm. People don't act against their own interests typically, and a male feminist is a man acting against his own interest. So inherently, there is going to be some level of conniving or self-deprecation. Again, this is more of a rambling topic. we have certain points to touch on, but it's more of just a conversation. You can chill here and enjoy it. I think it's a good background and a little bit of interesting thoughts. I always like to hear people's comments. If you had an issue with something we said, if you have something to add to the conversation, I could do like a comment reading episode every once in a while. That'd be fun.
Oh, that would be actually very nice, but it might help promote a bit of interaction as well. People enjoy that.
I think a lot of podcasts that just go out there and no one reacts, it's a very one-way thing. And I want to build that social dynamic with you. I want you to get that parasocial. I want to form that parasocial relationship.
Yeah.
I want to seek into your social life and make your little stupid monkey brain think that you're actually talking to me. That's a joke, though. Parasocial relationships are awful, and you should avoid them at all cases.
Absolutely awful. Just the worst thing ever.
It is. You see it all the time with people who like fall in love with VTubers or any streamer for that matter, because you get that reaction.
Plenty of times too.
Yeah, it happens a lot. And so people form these parasocial relationships that are incredibly detrimental. And that kind of goes back to the thing we were talking about earlier with people now having replacements for a social life, which are entirely detrimental to your mental health and your well-being in life.
It's just gonna screw you over one way or another. You're better off not getting too deeply immersed into it.
Yeah, that's not to say you can't like watching YouTube channels or.
The best thing to do is just not get too obsessed. It's one thing you're better off seeing. If you're watching a streamer, you're better off just seeing them as an entertainer, not as your personal friend or anything of the sort.
Yeah, exactly.
You can absolutely become friends with a streamer. I've done it several times, but you need to see them as, at the very most, a friend. Be your girlfriend or boyfriend or your best friend for life or something like that. At the end of the day, they're an entertainer.
The issue that we're going through right now, generally, and I'm talking about the West mostly. We already told you what Africa is going through. Mm-hmm. But at least in the West and the East, I'd say very prevalent in Asian society as well right now. The information age has unveiled ways to live your life, ways to experience reality, ways to communicate that simply never existed in prehistoric man. Like, the human brain was not made to know more than, 200 people?
What was that?
Yeah, realistically, just from people living in villages for thousands of years, people haven't evolved to do so many things or be around so many people. You're really supposed to only know 200, maybe even less people your entire life.
That's interesting. I haven't heard of that before.
I might be getting the number wrong exactly, but again, human brains are focused towards small tribal societies. Now you can see I have the access to almost the sum total of all human information just in my pocket. That's insane. The fact that I can talk to basically anyone around the world as long as they're connected to the internet, that's fucking insane.
It's oftentimes overwhelming too, especially with the sudden influx of information for people who are just not very well versed on just exploring the internet or just interacting with people, so they can get very overwhelmed.
Exactly. It's just simply an experience that humanity has never had to get used to. We haven't had time to react to it or even fully understand the processes that are going on right now. I'm sure 50 years down the line, we'll have terms for processes that we have going on in our lives right now that we don't even know exist until someone with hindsight can look back and quantify that information. But as of right now, we are going through a societal force that we barely even understand. It has had a drastic effect on society, and I believe it's going to get worse.
Oh, it absolutely will get worse. And part of the reason I believe it's going to get worse is because of the fact that many folks from a very young age are being thrown into technology like the internet.
Yeah.
They're sat down in front of their iPads. They're given little play phones. They're just sat in front of the TV or whatnot, as from being so much as toddlers, and just because it's easy. It's an easy distraction. So rather than giving them something creative to go about, letting them play outside, or hell, just spending time with them. Many new parents and old ones, don't get me wrong, they're not blaming everything on the youngins. They take the easy way out because the technology is so easy for them to just throw down and have it work.
See, I don't know if that's entirely new. Kids having access to iPads is a crazy new thing. I'm not arguing that.
Oh, it's absolutely not a new thing, but it's just back years and years and years ago, instead of throwing a iPad in front of your kid, for example, you might pass them a ball or some train set or something that would encourage them to move around more and use their hands for things other than just tap, 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 tap.
No, what I'm referring to is television. I think the internet it's more cognition because you're actually interacting with things. But
That's fair.
A good chunk of the boomer, Gen Z, millennial, Gen Xers grew up on television, watching various TV shows, MTV when they get a little bit older or younger. A lot of people were raised by televisions. And that, I think, the same thing would play eventually, and so you'd eventually get bored because, there'd be reruns. And, especially a long time ago, back when there wasn't a billion channels, there wasn't an infinite amount of content to intake. So I can't.
There's not much fair these days. In fact, all the content they put out these days is just garbage anyways.
You simply could not watch every YouTube video.
No.
You do not have enough time in your lifespan. A village of 50 people watching YouTube 24 hours a day, coordinating that each one of them watch a different episode, could take all year to watch all the videos made in 2022.
Doesn't help that there's new videos coming out in the thousands every single day either.
Exactly. You will never run out of content. You simply cannot run out of content. If there was a bill passed tomorrow to make uploading things to the internet illegal, you would still have such an amount of content that you would never be able to see it all.
Would any of that, would all of it be good content? Highly unlikely.
80% of it's garbage.
Oh, absolutely. You would have lots of content, very little of it worth anything.
Yeah, those are numbers we simply have never comprehended. Kids being raised by media definitely started with the age of television, and maybe even, I think you could almost even say radio. I don't think anyone was just sitting around listening to the radio all day long. You can do stuff while you're doing that. Listening, something you can do in the background while reading or doing a craft or a hobby or doing sports.
Yeah, but the thing with radio, it helps keep you entertained. It helps provide that auditory stimulation that many folks really enjoy, myself included, while you're still keeping yourself occupied doing other things. It just takes the monotony out of a lot of just same old tasks. Like you said, just like cleaning the house, doing a hobby, or cooking food or something.
Exactly, but like television, I think, is the point where that all changed. I mean, yeah, movies existed back then, but you can't spend your entire life in a movie theater.
No, God, no.
You're not the fucking Phantom of the Opera. Television allowed that to come into the house, and you could just sit and vegetate and consume. I'd say that internet's more cognition. You can make decisions and actually interact with this media device, but it's still the same thing in a way.
That's the thing too about television, even the internet, is that it not only does it give you a outlet for boredom, but it also demands your attention. TV, especially in my opinion, because I mean, you can step away from a computer and odds are you won't miss a thing.
Well, yeah, it's not going anywhere.
Especially like years ago when TV was like the new big thing. It was like the main thing everybody wanted to be messing around with. But it had a similar appeal to like the radio. You could listen to it while you're off doing whatever else, as long as you're within an earshot of the radio, or the sound. But the television demanded your attention. You didn't want to be away from it because of the fact that you would miss something. You'd miss that one dramatic moment in your show. You'd miss something important on the news, some new gossip, or some fancy deal that some prick was trying to push onto people like you. It's just I hate to say though, to use the word it rotted your brain, because that's inaccurate, but it had that effect on people.
I wouldn't say rotted the brain, which is a lot of people, what people have been using to describe this for a while, but it's not cogniscient. Again, there is no thought being made. It is you are intaking this information and storing it. Yeah, your brain's still doing something, but as long as you're conscious, and even when you're unconscious, your brain is still doing something, so that's not saying much.
Yeah.
It was a very uninteractive system. And again, that's why I think another issue I have with boomers is they're most unimaginative, consumerist people I've ever met in my entire life. And again, that comes down to their age. You don't expect someone to change that much after they get to a certain age, but I can't ever properly describe my disgust with the boomer generation.
Worst part of them is they think that everything they do is just exactly how it should be done, and they refuse to try anything new.
God forbid that they realize that they're the reason for everything that went wrong.
Well, if only they knew. But they'll never come to terms with it.
Yeah, whatever. They're almost dead anyway.
So yeah, sooner or later, we'll be rid of them.
I don't know. What do you think? You think Biden might be the last boomer president?
I sure as hell hope so.
That really all depends. I guess if Trump were to win again, which I doubt, realistically, he would have to run as an independent unless every single Republican lost their fucking mind, which they probably already have, so it could happen. But if they wanted to win this election, they would have literally anyone show up and they would beat Biden handily.
If Biden somehow wins again, then I don't know what to tell you.
I think the only way that he could win again is if Pence ran, he's a good chance he would lose. Even though he was a lot more level-headed and probably the smarter half of Trump's administration, just the anti-LGBT stigma would erase any potential way to win, at least within current political discourse.
Well, I disagree on that, just because of how opinions towards the LGBT community seem to be shifting recently. And especially with a lot of members of the LGBT community themselves, it seems like a lot of them are kind of turning on each other from what I've seen, because certain groups of them want to just be left alone. Other ones want to try to, in air quotes, educate people. So there's a big divide opening up in them as far as I've seen.
Oh yes, I agree with you definitely that public opinion is changing rapidly. However, I don't believe it's rapid enough to affect the next presidential election. Now, the one after that, probably, depending on how things go during that next presidency. If things stay their course with this current president, I have no doubt that will be accelerated.
Absolutely. That's even if Biden's physically capable of running for president in the next election.
He doesn't need to be physically capable. They roll him out on stage, juice him up, and have him just shake the air.
Didn't one of our past presidents, wasn't he wheelchair bound for several years?
Yes, FDR had polio, was it?
I believe it was polio.
Yeah.
I think so.
But he faked it. He faked not having it. Like, he had leg crutches and he would have people help him walk around. The photos of him in the wheelchair didn't come out until after he already died.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, what a crazy concept that the leader of a nation had to present themselves as a strong, capable individual. What a novel idea.
Imagine if people still did that today.
And with that, we're going to go ahead and play a little tune for you. In the description, there'll be a little place to skip over it if you don't want to listen to it, but we'll be back with you in just a moment.
Si scioglie la nebbia la brina, quei furbi inglesi che pernottano in cantina, tra sciarpe e bottiglie, succhiando pastiglie, domandano ai topi quando il tempo cambierà. April non giunge con vol di colombe, lancia dai cieli piogge di bombe, lancia siluri, fa colpi sicuri, e l'aprile d'Italia che gloria ci va. Percossa sconvolta dal basso dall'alto, tu non resisti al nostro assalto, malvagi Inghilterra, tu perdi la guerra, la nostra vittoria sul tuo capo fiera sta.
Adesso viene il bello, adesso viene il bello, isoletta di pescatore, agli orri tornerai. Adesso viene il bello, adesso viene il bello, in terra, la tua insegnate già. Adesso viene il bello, adesso viene il bello, isoletta di pescatore, agli orri tornerai. Adesso viene il bello, adesso viene il bello, in terra, la tua insegnate già.
La flotta che muove da Capo Teulada, tonando trova nell'Atlantico la strada. Su navi guerriere le nostre bandiere si spiegano al vento della santa libertà. Alza Inghilterra per ogni naviglio, perdi una danna, perdi un artiglio, non c'è rimedio, sei stretta d'assedio, è l'aprile d'Italia che morte ti va. Dovrai per giustizia, malvagi Inghilterra, lasciare Malta, abbandonare Gibilterra. Dal cuor delle genti di 3 continenti, il nome d'Italia benedetto salirà.
Adesso viene il bello, adesso viene il bello, isoletta di pescatore, agli orri tornerai. Adesso viene il bello, adesso viene il bello, in terra, la tua insegnate già. Adesso viene il bello, adesso viene il bello, isoletta di pescatore, agli orri tornerai. Adesso viene il bello, adesso viene il bello, in terra, la tua insegnate già.
Hey, thanks for watching. It's going to go ahead and be the end of this episode. We intended it to go longer, and we actually did record a lot more, but I thought cutting it down for time when it comes down to editing would really help out. as well as make the first episode not like fucking 3 hours long. So again, thank you for watching. Tune in next time for Weaponized Radio. I'm not going to pretend I have a regular schedule for this. That would be a lie. I try to do these when I can. I'm a busy guy. Hey, links to all of our media will be in the description, that being my Twitter account, your friendly neighborhood fascist Twitter account, and I've been thinking of opening back up the Discord, so look out for that. Alright, have a good night.